All right, so Brad Fuller here with Dennis Brooks. Dennis, so we're talking about this really exciting project that we're going for with the CXC. We are creating digital resources, and I just wanted to pick your brain really quickly on how we plan to go about this project. So we're talking about in terms of getting some focus on different subject areas. You've been in this field for a while now. You've taught, you've marked CSEC and CAPE. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, first of all, and thanks for the opportunity. I think it's an exciting opportunity for us to deliver content to young people, and not just to young people, to adult learners, the way they consume information. Because as the technology changes, they become digital natives and they are consumers of the information in ways that we never were. So we have to come up with the information in ways that are exciting to them and in ways that they are willing and interested in consuming it. For me, young people today, they want information at their fingertips. They don't want it necessarily too long and voluminous. And in many ways, we can break down these difficult syllabus topics into content that's manageable and interesting so that they can see that this makes sense.
And so, like, with your experience at e-learning, you're part of e-learning as well,
yes,
and your experience also marketing for CAPE and CSEC, you would have been able to now see how technology can better assist in terms of putting across some of these concepts.
Definitely.
All right. So we want to get into some of the approach that you would take now in terms of the technical presentation of the data. And we were talking about the subject areas we want to focus on. Certainly, CXC will give us some guidance there. But in your experience, what are some of the subjects that you would focus on? The criteria that you would use to decide, and just the problem areas that you see.
Well, some of the things that I would focus on are areas that are problematic year after year. And we look and we see the reports that CXC sends out. CXC doesn't just send out these reports at the end of an examination for purely academic purposes. They send out these reports so that you, the educators and the parents, can see what the students are getting wrong. When you get your report as a student and you see you got a 1 in this, or a 2, or a 3, or a 4, or a 5, you see you got an AAA profile or an ABA or whatever, that shows that in the various modules of the subject you were strong in this, weak in this, strong in that, weak in that. That, as the teacher, when I look at the different modules that my students were strong and weak in, you pick up the consistencies. You pick up that this school tends to be strong in this area, but weak in this area.
So it's a guide for the teachers and the students.
It is a teachable moment for the teachers, literally. So what I would like to do is hone in and take a very surgical approach at dealing with, 1, the subjects that are problematic, and 2, the topics that are problematic. Because every subject is going to have a topic that, or 2 or 3, that students are not necessarily as conversant with as they would hope.
And we're talking about just by the volume of subjects that are being sit every year, math, English. Those are some of the areas that you see we don't have to focus on.
And if and anybody who organizes exam centers knows what are the big subjects. What are the subjects that have a high population that you're going to need a lot of room for? So you know what the high demand subjects are: your language, literature, mathematics, your chemistry, your bio, your physics, etc. And you know what you then need to prepare more content for, because there are some subjects like math that people fail just because of the psychological block that they have towards it, that you need to break down. Economics, there's a psychological block that people put up. And so if we demystify it with content that's exciting and interesting, I think we would go a long way into raising the pass rates of a lot of subjects.
Right. I like that talk you make about a surgical approach, because certainly with us in multimedia, when we're dealing with clients and we're trying to get a concept across, we know we have to be very specific in our objectives. So talk to me now about the structure of the CXC syllabus and how, with your experience of the structure of the syllabus, give us an idea of what that's like and how our approach can address the specific objectives and the general objectives of the syllabus?
Well, I mean, thankfully, it's not like what it was like when I went to school, that it's all there and it's all online. There's no student who has an excuse to not being able to get your syllabus.
Yeah.
It is a resource that is available to you. And every CXC syllabus has general objectives, specific objectives, content that you have to consume, suggested reading material, etc., etc., etc. It's for you to read your syllabus, and I always encourage my students and students of subjects that I don't even teach, but I mean might help to administer via media. Get your syllabus, because you know your syllabus.
Yeah.
Know what because that's how you know if your teacher has taught everything. That's how you know, because this syllabus says students should be able to. At the end of this topic, students should be able to this.
Yeah.
Students should be able to that. Students should be able to explain this. Students should be able to describe that. Very specific thing.
Yeah, I'm going into this project looking just back at the RFP in terms of the podcast. Now, we're told the podcast is supposed to be 3 to 5 minutes.
Right.
So it's going to be really important now to zone in on a specific topic.
And that's why I say be surgical, be targeted in your approach. So we say in this podcast, we're gonna conceptualize a series of maybe 5 podcasts for this particular topic, because you need to be that specific. So for instance, one of the subjects that I teach is social studies. One of the topics that the students hate is government.
Right.
And I always
It's a big topic, man.
yeah, it's a big topic. Because government, I mean, you've taught groups and institutions, so you've taught political parties and trade unions, so now you're into government. You have to ask, what does government do? What are the functions of government?
So in a 3 to 5 minute podcast, let's say it's we're talking social studies, what would you zone in on?
So for instance, I'm looking at the objectives under government. So I'm going to say, all right, one of the objectives, students should be able to describe the functions of government or explain the functions of government. That might just be one podcast, 1, 3, or 5 minute podcast. So I'm going to look at what does your government do, and and highlight it by in something interesting and exciting, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So you might use a 30-second vox pop at a school, and where the students are saying, this is what I think the government does, this is what I think the government does, etc., 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 which might highlight what people know, but it might highlight also what people don't know.
Yeah.
Because we often don't realize what government is supposed to do or not do. So in that regard, what we're able to do is say, all right, this is what you do.
So for instance, one topic could be like the bicameral system of government, just focusing on that one specific objective.
You look at the Houses of Parliament. What does it mean to be elected? What does it mean to be selected to the Senate versus the House of Representatives?
Right.
In another discussion, we can talk about the executive and look at the Prime Minister and the Cabinet. In another podcast, we can talk about the judiciary, looking at the court system. And then in a completely different podcast, we can talk about electoral systems, which is not the same as the arms of government. We could talk about first past the post, we could talk about proportional representation, get a resource person from Guyana, explain the representational system in Guyana, which is different.
And so you've actually been doing shows with CXC topics.
Oh yeah, that's what
so you have a pool of resource people that you can
I have people that I call on every week for different topics. Sometimes I have people, based on the topics that I've done, call in and say, hey, I teach this in this parish. My students did well. Why don't you talk to me?
And if you know your syllabus, you know the problem areas that the students are having. Right?
Exactly. There are new subjects that come on stream that some schools don't do, others do. Sometimes it's hard to find a teacher for it. Sometimes it's in doing something. So for instance, I recently did jamming in the courtyard, where we brought students from different schools, music students from different schools. We had a jam session in the courtyard, and then I took all their teachers' information and then had a discussion on the educational program that we do here.
Was I enjoying that?
Oh yeah. But so we did that, the musical side of it in the day, and then in the evening got the teacher to talk about the music syllabus and what you have to do in the music syllabus. How do you pass the SBA? Which is another thing that every student has multiple SBAs to do, and they
And
hate them
if it's the
usually.
same as when we did it, I wouldn't say we hated it, but it was the
It's
most
so
challenging
tedious,
part
yes.
of the process.
It's so tedious.
And I hear SBAs have gotten even more difficult
Of
now
course.
because there are more SBAs
There's
for
more
more subjects.
SBAs for more
Talk to me
subjects.
about that.
So you have English language, English literature, which is jointly done. You have math. Imagine we own, you have an SBA for math now.
Yeah.
There are teachers who want help to know what are the SBA expectations. How much help do I need to give to these students? What do I need to be doing? But there are also students who are saying, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, you
for
were
math
telling me earlier there's
SBA.
a lot of mystery around
Exactly.
SBAs.
So what
So
we
we can
need to
use
do
these
is
resources,
use
right?
these resources to demystify the SBAs, plus the traditional SBAs, like you know when you have in bio and chem and physics where you have a ton of labs to do and you're behind on your labs. It would be good. You want to know, okay, the saponification lab in chemistry. What do I need to do here in order to successfully get the marks for this lab? How do I write up my lab?